Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a framework that's truly changing lives, and it does it by asking us to completely rethink a really fundamental question about human behavior. It's called positive behavior support. But before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's just start with this one powerful idea that changes everything. What if that thing we call challenging behavior isn't actually a problem to be stopped, but a message that we need to understand? You see, this single shift in perspective, well, it's the absolute heart of positive behavior support. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to cover what PBS actually is, look at where it came from, understand its detective work for finding the why, then see how a plan gets built, and finally, we'll check out its role right here in Australia today. Okay, so let's jump right in. What exactly is positive behavior support, or PBS? Well, the very first thing to get your head around is that this is about so much more than just managing behavior. It's about improving a person's entire quality of life. At its heart, PBS is a scientifically backed approach. This isn't about guesswork or quick fixes. No, it's about making real, lasting changes to someone's lifestyle by getting to the root cause of why they're acting a certain way and then building a better, more supportive world around them. Here's a great way to think about it. The traditional approach is kind of like firefighting, right? You wait for a fire to start, and then you rush in to put it out. PBS, on the other hand, is more like architecture. You proactively design a supportive, well-built environment where those fires are just way less likely to even start in the first place. Now, this huge shift from being reactive to proactive, well, it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was born from a human rights revolution, a complete change in how we view and treat people with dignity. You can really see the journey here. It all kicked off in the 70s and 80s. As people started moving out of old institutions, there was this massive push for more humane, person-centered care. That's where PBS grew from, offering positive alternatives instead of punishment, and eventually becoming a cornerstone of policy right here in Australia with the NDIS. And this is just so important. At its very core, PBS was a direct moral and ethical stand against harmful practices. It was built on this non-negotiable idea that every single person deserves dignity and respect, and that no approach should ever rely on causing pain, shame, or fear. So when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day, isn't it? Older methods were all about control, just stopping a behavior. PBS is about proactively improving someone's whole life by teaching them new skills and, above all else, always upholding their human rights. Okay, so how does this actually work on the ground? This next part is all about the core investigative process of PBS. Because before you can figure out how to support someone, you've absolutely got to understand why the behavior is happening in the first place. And the starting point is simple but really profound. Behavior is not random, it's communication, period. When someone shows a behavior that's challenging, they are telling us something incredibly important, that a need isn't being met, that they're distressed, or that they simply don't have another way to get their message across. Our job is to listen. So how do we listen? Well, it's done through a systematic process called a functional behavior assessment, or FBA. And honestly, it's just like being a detective. You start by gathering clues, through interviews and reviewing records. Then you go to the scene to observe what's happening in real time. And finally, you analyze all that data to come up with a solid hypothesis about what that behavior is actually doing for that person. And all that detective work usually points to one of these four common reasons, or functions. Is the person trying to get attention? Are they trying to escape a task they hate? Are they trying to get their hands on something they really want? Or is the behavior itself just providing some kind of internal sensory feeling? Figuring this out, that's the key that unlocks the entire support plan. So once we finally understand the why, we can move on to building the how. And this is where we create that personalized blueprint for success, which is known as the behavior support plan. Let's make this really concrete with a quick case study. Meet John. He's 12, and he gets really agitated when things change in the classroom. Now, his FBA, that detective work we just talked about, it revealed his behavior was serving two main purposes: to get out of tasks he doesn't like and to get attention. All right, so the very first part of John's plan is all about being proactive. We use what are called antecedent strategies, which is really just a fancy way of saying we try to prevent the distress before it even starts. For him, that means using a visual schedule so there are no surprises about what's coming next and giving him a clear 5-minute warning before a change. Simple but effective. Next up, and this is crucial, because his behavior is communication, the plan has to focus on teaching him new skills, a better way to say what he needs. So he learns to use a simple card to ask for a break. That meets the escape need in a positive way, and the team role plays how to ask for help, which addresses his need for attention. And finally, the plan spells out exactly how everyone should respond. So, when John uses his new communication card, he gets immediate praise and what he asked for. That's positive reinforcement. But if the pushing happens, the team makes sure to minimize the attention he gets for it. You see? This makes the new, positive behavior the most effective way for John to get his needs met. Now, a detailed plan like John's doesn't exist in a vacuum. It usually fits into a much bigger picture, what's called the tiered model of support. Think of it like a pyramid. Tier 1 is the base, universal supports for everyone in a setting, like a school. Tier 2 is for some who might need a bit more help. And Tier 3, at the very top, is that intensive, individualized plan just like John's, for the few who need it most. So, what does all of this actually look like in the real world? Right here in Australia. Let's take a look at the current state of play. Here in Australia, PBS is a central pillar of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS. That means it's officially funded and it has really clear goals to protect people's rights by getting rid of harmful, restrictive practices, and ultimately to empower people to live full, engaged lives in their communities. But, having a great framework on paper isn't always enough. There are some real-world hurdles to making it work. We're talking about systemic issues like funding and paperwork, workforce gaps where we need more training and support, and sometimes just the pure challenge of getting everyone, families, staff, providers, all on the same page and working together. And this is exactly why skilled practitioners are so incredibly essential. Their role goes way beyond just writing a plan. They're the detectives doing the FBA, the architects building the support plan, the coaches training the entire team, and maybe most importantly, they are the advocates who make sure that person's human rights are always, always at the center of everything. Which brings us right back to where we started. Positive behavior support is so much more than a set of strategies. It's a fundamental shift in mindset. And the crucial takeaway, the question we should all be asking is this: how do we, in all of our systems and all of our interactions, build environments that always see the person first and the behavior second? Thanks for watching.